And I believe we're live. Hello, everyone. This is a live episode of Questing Beast. Hopefully my sound's working. Let's check my video here. Looks like everything's in order. All right. So my goal today is I'm going to be looking at something called Mage Knight, which is a miniatures game that stopped or went out of print, I don't know, 5-6 years ago or something like that. And the cool thing about them, let me show you an example here. Get it in focus. All right, come on, camera. There we go. Cool thing about them is they are all pre-painted. All right, they're plastic minis. They come in the box all pre-painted, and it's a war game. So the idea is that they fight each other, and as they take damage, you can click their bases like so, and that represents how much damage they're taking, and their stats change and so on. But like I said, the game is pretty much dead. No one really plays it anymore, and as a result, people just give this stuff away on eBay. It's really cheap. So I've seen people talking about the Bones miniatures. Those can be a good option for role-playing games. I just watched a live stream of someone unboxing a whole bunch of Bones miniatures. That was WASD20. You should check out his channel as well. But these are another great option. They're about 50 cents each if you buy them in bulk on eBay. And there is a huge variety of them. And I got a gigantic box. I don't know. It has like 800 figures, something completely absurd. So we're going to take a look at a whole bunch of them and see what we have. And in the meantime, if you guys have any questions or comments about this or about role-playing games or map making in general, feel free to leave in the comments. Be happy to answer anything you have. So this guy, what is he? He's a Wrath Golem, apparently. And there's a whole bunch of robot guys in here. That seems to be one of the factions. So this could be good as a just a tank type character. Now, one thing about these figures that I have noticed is that the size of the base, sorry if there's a bit of background noise. I have kids, so that's the way it goes. The size of the base is slightly bigger than the size of the squares that you'll typically see in a battle map for like a Dungeons and Dragons type game. So these guys won't quite fit into those squares. They're a little bit bigger. But if you tend to run games without actual squares, then it doesn't really matter, right? They'll work just fine. This guy's cool. He's like a kind of a Wizard King type character. And some of the pieces get a little bent, but I think some hot water could probably sort that out. Now, it has this kind of rubbery plastic, which on the downside means that things can get bent a bit. But on the upside, it means that the pieces are actually very hard to damage. But here's another great figure. This guy is a, what's he called? A Swooping Invader. And so you have a lot of cavalry figures. And these wings I actually had to glue on here. But this would be great as sort of like a mini dragon. If you didn't want the guy in there, you could probably cut the guy off. And I do actually play this miniatures game. After I got so many figures, I started playing it with a couple of friends of mine, and it is actually a really fun game. It's pretty similar to HeroClix, which a lot of people might be more aware of since that game is still ongoing, where you have your stats, and then the different colored squares in there each represent different powers. So you look up the color on a sheet, and that tells you what their powers are, and that kind of sets them all apart. There's lots of different factions here. I'm not sure what they all are, to be perfectly honest. Okay, this guy's great. We got a Barbarian-esque character. I guess he does have a helmet, which isn't very Barbarian-ish. But use him for a Conan or a sword and sorcery type campaign, I think would work really well. I'm down over here. So I'm going to take a look at a few more of these. And feel free to tell me to stop if you want to have a closer look at one of them. Now, these are all machine painted. Like I said, they're all pre-painted. So paint job is, it's mediocre. It's all done by a machine. But of course, you can easily touch these up yourself if you feel like it. Wouldn't be too hard to do. And if you don't feel like painting, then they're all just ready to go right out of the box. This guy's a grave robber. So this could be great as an NPC. There's a lot of figures in here that could reasonably be used as NPCs and not just as enemies or as party members. So that's great for filling out your miniatures as well. What else do we have here? So we have guys from all different ages. This guy is a Sin freelancer. So we have gunpowder type characters, which would work in a more steampunk-like campaign. I think his costume does need more details. If I was more serious about this, I would probably touch these guys up a bit. And we have characters from all sorts of typical fantasy races. So we have your orc type character. He looks more like a linebacker of some sort. With his mace. He's a crusher. And one neat thing is that for the game, at least, after their name on the back here, they all have a number, which is the number of points that they're worth. So their point number does tell you how powerful they are relative to the other characters. And that's, like I said, for the war game, but could be useful for other reasons too. Maybe the number of experience points they're worth, if you're going to adapt it for a RPG. This isn't immediately adaptable for an RPG. I was thinking about this a bit, that maybe there is some way to adapt these numbers. Oh, this guy has all skulls, as you can see there, which means that he's dead. So what you would do is you would rotate until you see numbers again, and that's his full health right there. So according to these stats, he has 10 speed, there's a 10 next to the boot, and 9 attack next to the sword there. And his defense is 15. And there is a 2 next to the explosion at the end of that L shape. So that means that he would do 2 damage. And each of those different squares would mean a different superpower. And I was thinking about ways that maybe you could adapt these numbers so that they would work for a role-playing game. Like maybe you could use the boot number as agility. It represents speed in here. That's roughly agility. And then the sword could be strength. So if you had dexterity and strength, then that pretty much covers your basic stats. There's nothing that you could really use for mental abilities. You would really only want to use the top 2 ones because, as far as I can tell, they're roughly in the same range as each other. For most of the characters anyway. And as they take damage, it would click down, and then they would be a little bit weaker. But I think, ooh, this guy's cool. What is he? A key devil. Little devil guy. Great for outsiders or for extra planar campaigns if you're going to travel down into the more evil planes. There's such a huge variety of guys here that your players, are traveling around the wilderness and they encounter something. You could just grab a handful of these guys, maybe just like 3 or 4 of them, and then boom, you have an encounter for them to fight. And since they all look so different, there's immediately a lot of flavor about what these guys are, what they're doing here, how they're related to each other, and so on, which is a cool way to just randomize encounters by pulling guys right out of a box, which is something I'm probably going to start doing. Some of this paint is wearing off on this. You'll mostly be buying these used since, like I said, the game is out of print. So some of them are beat up a bit, but they are, they're like 50 cents each. So it's not really a big deal. Let's check out some big guys. Oh, here's a big guy. So they have some giant monsters that you can get as well. Get this guy in focus. Here we go. This guy is a troll chieftain. A friend of mine was just using this guy in an army recently. Cool thing about him is that when he takes enough damage, right there, see that black 12 suddenly clicks into existence when you get down far enough on his damage track, and that's regeneration. So you damage him enough, regeneration kicks in, and he starts healing himself again. There's a lot of thematic elements that can be tied into the powers that they put onto these figures. That's pretty neat. Back to full health again. Let me show you a little bit about the powers. Now, there's a lot of, most of the rules you can still print out from online. They're still out there. They're still available. But they're kind of scattered, and they're not terribly well organized. So I ended up having to make my own, especially since I'm planning to play this with kids. So, for example, here's a list of all the different powers that might be available. So you got wand attacks, damage special abilities, defense special abilities. And then I have more on the other side. You have speed special abilities, sword attack special abilities, all the way down to bow attack special abilities. They're all different colors and their shapes, either squares or circles. And you can simply use this as a lookup. You look up your character and you find out what they're good at and what their special abilities are. Because a lot of the game is synergy. Oh gosh, this guy lost her arm. This is a noble archer. She lost both her bow and her arm. So, but that's not really worrying. You pull this guy out of the box as an encounter, and you just met a crippled archer, right? She lost her arm. That's very thematic. You can do all sorts of stuff with that. Turn into a peasant, right? She took an arrow to her knee, or maybe her shoulder in this case. What else do we have? Oh, another troll looks like. Troll Arteriole, Artillerist? I can't pronounce that. There's definitely enough types of fantasy creatures that you could create your own army of them, or you could create thematic armies. That's pretty easy to do. I recently played a all golem or all robot army, which was a whole lot of fun, actually. But once you get used to all the different superpowers, all the different special abilities, then it becomes a lot easier to create armies that all work together really seamlessly. Oh, look at this guy. This guy's cool. It's a giant bone dragon-like creature. Look at that. All of the guys with wings, the wings seem to pop right out. So I ended up having to super glue them back in. But, that's not really a big deal, especially compared to something like dealing with Warhammer figures. We have got to put the whole thing together. I recently put together a huge amount of Warhammer figures, and it was a pain. It's not really a bone dragon. It's more like a mummy dragon. This is a fell banshee, apparently. The great thing about this is because it isn't strictly D&D. The Mage Knight had its own fantasy universe and lore behind it. So all of the guys don't strictly map onto a lot of the D&D stereotypes, which means that it's a good way to really shake up your campaign and make things a bit more interesting, because things will be unexpected. They won't fit into the monster manual categories that you will expect them to. What is this guy? Utem Crossbowman. More of a mook type character. Now, this guy's a green base, and that's because, as I understand it anyway, Mage Knight had a kind of spin-off game where you could adapt Mage Knight figures just to do dungeon crawl type adventures. It wasn't really an RPG. It was more just set up a dungeon, have your guys go through it, kill the monsters, and so on. And as a result, let me see if this guy has it. Some of the guys, no, he doesn't. Some of the guys with green bases, which are from the dungeon spin-off, I suppose, have little numbers in between their defense and their damage, which represent the level that they're at. So you can actually level characters up. So that's another RPG element that maybe could be adapted to D&D somehow. One of those things I'll have to think about more. Ooh, we have a wild mountain troll. So more of the troll theme. Made out of rock. And he has 38 points. So he's, medium powerful. Where does his stats start out? Yeah, he's really high defense, which makes sense for a troll. Now, a lot of these guys, you'll notice that they have either red, blue, or yellow accents on them. And that represents the how powerful that version of the guy is. So, for example, this guy has blue, and I believe that corresponds to the fact that he has 2 stars, because if you collected these guys, then in the sets, you could get wild mountain trolls with 1 star, 2 stars, or 3 stars, which are like the 3 different power levels available of that type of figure. And then you could see it more easily by just looking at the color code on them. So, for example, this guy, the guy we looked at before, has these yellow studs, and that represents that he is a 1-star character. So just by the colors, you can see how powerful that version is. And these weren't just a miniature game like Games Workshop would sell. This was a collectible miniature game like HeroClix. So you would actually get booster packs of these guys. Check this guy out. Chaos Mage. He's got antlers. So this is a new take on orcs. All the orcs are very squat and they look like linebackers. and they're very shamanistic. Are those antlers real, or are they just part of a helmet? You decide. I don't know. What else we got in here? Ooh, this guy is cool. So we have a Hydra Serpent. So like I said, there's a huge variety of types of guys in here. Plenty of these could be used as interesting monsters. And let's see. Yeah, appropriately, let's see. Their attack is a black circle. As you can see that right next to the sword. So if I look up sword, black circle, that's a sweep attack, so it can hit multiple guys at once. And because it's a Hydra, I bet that it starts regenerating once you take it down far enough. Yep, there we go. See, we get to a 14 and turns into a black square. So kick it down far enough, starts regenerating. So that makes sense for a Hydra. We have a wood golem. I've been enamored of using like rock and wood type characters in my armies recently. Great thing about this compared to things like Warhammer, besides the fact that they're already put together and have all their stats written on them, is that you can just grab a bunch of them and go. Right? The armies are not huge. You can play armies easily or play games easily with only 2 or 3 figures. It's not a big deal. And so you can just grab a couple of them and go and just try out new combinations and see what works. There's lots of different formats for play too. You can play where you're just trying to wipe out the other side, or you're capturing different strategic objectives and things like that. Really, any way you want to play it. Here we go. So this is a horned Hatchet Krogh. There was a whole series of guys that was basically fantasy cavalry. It's definitely a weirder type of fantasy than D&D, though D&D is pretty weird already. There's more of a mix of genres, I think, going on in Mage Knight, at least out of the box. You got your standard characters too. Not everything is super odd. You got your skeletons. Rustle up enough of these guys and you have a necromancer army. I believe there are necromancer powers that some of the characters have that actually allow them to raise the dead and create their own army to replenish troops after they die, which is cool. And yeah, the downside of this kind of rubbery plastic is it's kind of bendy. Some of them aren't as stable as others. You'd have to bend it back. Soaking it in hot water has been very effective for me. Got another pistolier guy. Oh, there we go. It's my daughter's favorite one. We got a guy riding a unicorn. It is a unicorn bladesman. Unicorns, of course, would be quite terrifying in battle. Impale guys on their horns. And sometimes the guys come off a little bit. Like this guy is detached a bit, as you can see there. But you could probably just glue that back on. Now, the only problem with some of these guys is most of the cavalry units have this weird base setup. Where let me see if I can focus on it here. You can see that it has like this weird base that you have to twist in order to change the stats, instead of just twisting the base right here like you did with the other guys. And it's really hard to get your fingers under there and twist that stuff. Let's see if I can do it. Not really, especially when they get stuck, as they do sometimes. So that's kind of disappointing. I know that there are like these special key rings or stands that you put underneath guys that allow you to twist their bases like that, but they're actually really hard to find now that the game is out of print. So these guys are a little bit annoying. But the vast majority of them don't have that situation. Most of them are just really easy to mess around with or to change their stats really easily. We have a Kimball Garn. So some guys have actual names. They're actual hero characters. Looks like another dwarven archbowman or a crossbowman, sorry. These guys are pretty easy to turn into a click, 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 and so on. The downside is that you're grabbing the guy, and that can kind of break the guy off if you're not really careful. So you do have to be careful with how you're grabbing them. Usually down by the feet is more effective. Making a dwarf army, that would be a lot of fun. I should try that next time. I'm not super experienced in this game, as you may be able to tell. So I just like throwing guys together and see what it does to my army. Oh, this is great. It's a war impaler. Got another bowman. He's riding what looks like a giant ram. So you could easily add tactics to this guy if you were playing him using D&D. Right? You charge straight forward, bowls guys over, knocks them out of the way. That'd be a lot of fun. Impact damage. You could rearrange the battlefield by knocking people here and there. And I got so many that I did get some copies. But, that's okay, because that way you can create bigger armies. Here we have a guy, a leech medic. More of an NPC type character. Or someone that would work well as a player character, because it's fairly generic looking. The players often want ones that are more specific. Like, here we go, standard bearer. Maybe this is a paladin or something like that. Enemies at the gates. My kids are trying to get in the room. All right, let's see here. Ooh. We also have stuff that would work well in horror campaigns. We have a werewolf. And stuff that would work well in Lovecraft. This is a deep spawn. All right, this looks exactly like the type of stuff you would see in Shadow over Innsmouth or Lovecraft stories like that. So stuff that you could use in any type of campaign. Horror, fantasy, whatever. Now, I can't go through this whole box. I think I've gone through about, 5% of all the figures that I have so far. But let's see if we can get some more variety. Let's see what else is available in here. Ooh, this guy's cool. This is a Morgue blood spiller. He looks really similar to this guy that we had before. I mean, just aesthetically, there's a lot of similarities there. And I bet they're part of the same, they're part of the same faction. So I love that there are just these little touches to the way they look that tell you that they might be related to each other. There's arcane armor, something from Lemuria or Atlantis. Is the feeling I get from these guys. Maybe even a secret society. That could work well. Same deal with this guy. The feel I'm getting from this guy is something more like Conan the Barbarian, maybe? Looks like the type of evil wizards that you would see in Hyboria. At least that's the feeling I get. I watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger version recently, which is actually a lot of fun, if pretty hammy. And reminds me of James Earl Jones a bit. Crystal Sprite. Her wings are all messed up here. Something for more a high fantasy campaign. You can use them for elves. The detail is okay. It's better on the big figures. But on the smaller figures, the detail is kind of muddy, both in the paint job and in the sculpture. But these guys are for just throwing on the table and getting in play. So I don't think it's as big of a deal. You have guardsmen, your typical town guard, maybe for a really big city, someplace with higher technology. And armored skeleton. Add this to your necromancer's army. Dwarven fuser. Let's see if I can get all the dwarves together. Where are some of my other dwarves? I got this guy. Who else we got? I know I had another dwarf in here somewhere. Where'd you go? Yeah, I'll see him again in a second. I'm going to start separating these out. My plan this summer is actually to do a large... I am actually running a big gaming camp for kids over this summer. So I'm looking for all sorts of different types of games I can play with large groups of kids. And this is a really good one because kids love miniature games. And this is a really easy one to teach them. There we go. Add it to our golem squad. It's the bone golem. For some reason, I have a ton of these guys. Work well in a necromancer army too. This guy's crazy. It's like a robot dragonfly. That's awesome. Just having all of these figures, especially all of these mechanical ones, and the ones that look Atlantean, really makes me want to do a D&D campaign set in a place like that, just because I got all the miniatures for it. So the miniatures work as inspiration as well. I think this one is my son's favorite. The guy riding a serpent. These guys are very Aztec, I suppose, is the feeling I get from them. It is a serpent sniper. So he has a blow dart. See, on this guy, the detail is actually really nice. There's a lot of fine detail to the scales and to the under armor. It seems to just vary a lot from set to set. I mean, they were all just, churned off of a mill in China somewhere. So I guess you just never know what you're going to get. What's this guy? Demolishing ape? Yes, there's ape men. Do a Planet of the Apes campaign. That reminds me more of old D&D. You had stuff like that. That's the problem with 5th edition, or at least the stuff that I've seen from 5th edition. It isn't nearly weird enough. Your typical ghost here. It's a shade, sorry. Let's see. It's pretty tough. There was this one figure I saw. I'll see if I can find it later on. And it only had 1 hit point, so it took 1 hit and it was dead. But it was almost impossible to hit because it was immune to everyone's armor. So that was kind of cool. Ooh, here we go. This is a Minotaur Warrior. Right, it reminds me a bit of the Tauren from things like World of Warcraft, or the Warcraft universe. Or if you want to do a more Greek campaign, you could set that in there. It's the sort of thing that you might find in Maze the Blue Medusa, maybe. Does that have a Minotaur? I don't remember. Let's see what else we have. Let's grab a handful here. Our skeleton. Oh, here we go. This is a meddling priestess. That's very necromancy looking. I would team her up with something like, put it together with a shade, and then combine it with like maybe one of these imps and a couple skeletons. And you got a really cool thematic army that you throw on the table, and your players are now fighting a necromantress. I don't know. Is there a female form for that? Basically, you can use a big box of these as a physical random table. Grab a bunch and get some inspiration. I love these little robot guys. So far, they are my favorite. Steampunk, magic punk. What do they call that? Mana punk? Maybe it's mana punk. It's a brass golem. Like I said, they got the little yellow symbols telling us that it's a 1-star. So you can see that 1-star creature. Putting all of these guys into their own army is really fun. They just look really great together. Right, you have them all lumbering towards the players. That freaks them out pretty well. Just when all their weapons start bouncing off this. I think these guys all have like a toughness special ability that causes them to be to reduce all damage by 1. So your friends' weapons are all just like bouncing off, which is cool. Another deep spawn. There we go. Let's collect all these deep spawn together. That way we can have like a Cthulhu horde of guys just like marching towards the players out of the ocean or into the ocean, right? That'd be cool. What else we got here? Ooh, these guys. We haven't stumbled across these guys yet. Yes. It's a crypt worm. I got a ton of these. Some of these, maybe they were just more common than others. I don't know. But I have just like, 7 or 8 of these. Should run an army of just crypt worms. Pretty gross. More orcs. We got a half troll hacker. Let's see something interesting. Ooh, this guy's cool. Shelled one. I'm getting kind of a Lovecraft feel off of this guy. He's like a big lobster. Anything that comes, crawling out of the ocean gives me Lovecraft vibes. Let's team you up with the other deep spawn. How about that? Ooh, this guy's great. What is this guy? Spine Sucker. So here we have one of the weirder horrors that you might find in Mage Knight. All right, this looks like a demon from another dimension. The big long beak. It's like, was it a god Thoth, however you say that. But he's all emaciated and skeletal. He's got a big spine going down his back. That's great. There's more Lovecraft-like guys than I expected in here. I've looked through this box briefly, but I haven't seen all of them. I have so many. Ooh, another one of the spine suckers. We're going over here. Maidstone Lord. So here we have, this is more of a PC character, right? He's all armored up. He's got his sword. He's got his shield. This is a very archetypal character or barbarian-like character. Got his long hair. This is like Conan in his later years, when he's like King Conan and he gets all armored up. I just started reading the Conan stories, actually. The Phoenix on the Sword is the first one that was ever written. It's the first one that I read, too. It's great. It's awesome. Conan starts out as like this old king. He doesn't start out as a barbarian in the stories because the stories are all written out of chronology, out of chronological order. So Howard starts out writing Conan as like this sort of old grizzled king who used to be a barbarian. And now there's like a plot against him, and an evil wizard sends like this monster out to get him and all of his henchmen. And Conan has to take them all down before he can even put his armor on. It's so badass. It's amazing. Those stories are just hugely underrated. Here's another dwarf. He is a dwarven fuser. They all got steampunk shotguns or big, what are those things called? Those big old powder horn guns. Slipping my mind for some reason. Succubus. So some stuff matches up with D&D. It's got succubi. But this is one of those ones where, for whatever reason, it has the weird bottom, where you have to twist this from the bottom, and getting a grip on that is just a huge pain. More cavalry. So here we have the Sislith Tracker. More giant lizards with people riding them. And he's an archer, so you can ride around your enemies in circles and peck them off with your bow. All those guys. What's in here? You have your typical knight. If your characters are riding horses, it's not hard to grab some figures that are riding horses and just say that, that's your character. There's enough cavalry that you have a lot of variety. Especially if your characters start picking up weird mounts, there's a lot of options in Mage Knight you can use for that. Now here's a cool thing. These came in the boxes that I got from eBay. And I know that it has something to do with the underground dungeon delving spin-off of Mage Knight, but I have no idea how these work. Which is kind of cool, actually, because you could start making up your own ideas. Like there's stats on the top of this chest. And it looks like arrows, lightning bolts, damage, attack. There's a number, there's a monster symbol maybe, and then like a key. And then each of these, has the numbers change. So I don't know. That's kind of cool. You can make up what those stats meant. And then inside the box, there's even more. Get closer there so you can see it. So you have a speed symbol, attack, defense, what looks like coins, and maybe a wand. I don't know. It says boots or weapons, potions. Maybe that's the treasure that you get at the end. And then the coins must be how much coins you get. Maybe this is the item that you get. I bet that's what it is. So for example, this is a potion and it's worth 950 gold and it gives you +1 armor. I bet that's what's going on here. So that's cool. Boots that speed you up. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. I bet this is like if the chest is trapped or not. There's so many ways you could adapt it through D&D, I think. Just by closing the box, spinning this, and then seeing what you get. We have an Aslan Veil. So we've got the weird elf character with her curved knives. Ooh, more fairies. Crystal Protector. And that paint job is really not that great. Let's grab another handful. So many. We've got another little Hydra here. Ooh, here we go. Shadow. There is another Lovecraft character. That thing is pure old ones. It's even got tentacles coming out of its back. Come on. That's pure Lovecraft. Cool. Lady Guardians. Screeching Terror. That's very Arkham Horror. This would be fun to make an army of just these guys. Little imps and demons and succubi. Dwarven Thunder Gunner. Facing down an army of Dwarven Gunners. Let's get one more handful. Oh, these guys are great. So there's another one of these Banshee characters, but previously, let's see if I can find the old one. There it is. We had this one, which was riding like a mummy dragon. And this one is riding like a skeletal horse. Holding something in her hand. Ooh, I bet it's like a human heart. But that's what's going on there. It's like a headless horseman vibe. It's a nightmare banshee. Faction are these guys from? Okay, yeah, so the faction is like the little symbol right there. It's like a skull. So I bet there's like an undead faction that all these guys belong to. What else we got? An orc riding another dinosaur. There's a lot of dinosaur mounts in here, which is really cool. Dinosaurs are dramatically underused in D&D. You heard it here first. We need dinosaurs coming back again. Although, you know what? I saw a picture of concept art of an upcoming D&D book, and it looked like it had dinosaurs in it. So maybe Wizards of the Coast is catching on. Dinosaurs, man. More dwarves. We got a little imp. Great. What is he worth? 5 points. Throw him in any army. Woodland Scout. We got our little elf characters. Oh, this guy's awesome. What is he? Galeshi Cavalryman. Got a robot horse. It's crazy. It's a really cool looking robot horse too. I like how his underside is like copper wire. That's a really neat little touch that I didn't notice actually before. Pot-bellied gremlin. So we got a headstone. It's like a gargoyle of some sort. And a Krogh thug. Some of their bases are pretty stiff, kind of hard to turn. What you do is you just kind of you turn them around for a bit and loosen them up. Seems to work fine. And I'm gonna get about halfway through this, and then I think I'm gonna call it quits. But I'm not even halfway yet. More apes, yes. Join my ape army. Oh, this guy's great. Look at this. It's an impaler. That is sweet. It would work well for a Lovecraft thing too. Join my Lovecraft army over here. Guy riding a giant turtle. Or I guess it's a dinosaur. More orcs riding dinosaurs. But his armor is really high. Yeah, he has really high armor. Now to join our other guy who is riding a robot horse. Where'd you go, robot horse guy? And I lost him. Oh, there he is. We got a robot horse guy, and we have a giant robot spider. That's like a whole army right there. This spider has like big blades in the front, and it has like a saw coming off the back to like chop people up. That is awesome. His legs getting all bent. See, this guy's getting kind of off his base a bit. Right, he's just coming off there. But some super glue should fix that. Going to my super glue pile. More horse dudes. Lots of cool orc figures. I bet if you collected enough of these orc figures, you could just run a campaign focused on orcs. Especially if your players like playing orcs. It's an orc with a shovel. He's a digger. Church piper. I think the orcs are supposed to be all like Scottish people in this game. This one has a bagpipe. It's got some cool dragons. A two-headed dragon. How much points he's worth? 145 points. This guy is super high stats. I bet he's like a dragon wizard of some sort. Or big bad guy. If you run games that have big bad guys. Mind Sifter. More of an illusionist or mage to mess with your players' minds. Hellkate Hookjaw. It's a big thing to grab people with. This would be cool mechanically in D&D, just because D&D doesn't seem to play enough with the idea of capturing people, which is something I'm trying to bring back in my games. I'm thinking of altering my death rules so that if a character takes enough damage, what happens is they just pass out. And then it's fairly hard to actually kill people unless they're already, incapacitated on the floor and you run up and stab them. The idea being that I want my players to pass out a lot more and allow the enemies more opportunities to capture them, or to have the enemies pass out and the players capture them and interrogate them, because that offers a lot more interesting situations than just either you die or I die. Having prisoners to take care of and or ransom or interrogate or whatever just immediately adds more opportunities for adventure that you wouldn't have otherwise. So characters that just like clearly designed to grab people are cool. What is this? Xenofred. This seems to be an actual named character again. It would work well as a thief character, I think. A female thief. Who's got a bag of gold and a sword. Yeah. We got a couple more, and then I think we'll call it a day. Minotaur Warrior. So we got another Minotaur. Is it the same guy? Yeah, it's the same guy. So here's a good example. Two Minotaur Warriors, but you can see that one is colored blue and one is red. So that's just like this guy's more powerful than this guy. Just an upgraded version of him. Another wood golem. And look at our last guy here, which is a Night Witch. So you have plenty of necrotic or evil characters that you could throw at your friends. So I think that's it for my live stream today. Just wanted to look at all these characters. I have another huge box of them over here. Basically, the point of this video is just to tell you, if you like visual aids for D&D, whether you're into the actual war game or not, and the war game is fun, so it could just be a fun game to play. But if you want visual aids and miniatures for D&D, this, I think, is the best option in terms of them being dirt cheap, about 50 cents each if you buy them in bulk on eBay from people. And they're pre-assembled, they're pre-painted. It has all of that just going for you. You can grab them out of a box, throw them together, make an encounter instantly. So hopefully that's useful for everybody. Now, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Feel free to check out my other videos. I have lots of reviews of D&D books out there, and supplements and OSR stuff that you can check out. And subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of that. You can join me on Patreon as well. Thank you to all of my patrons who support me and allow me to do videos like this, which I certainly wouldn't have the time or money to do otherwise. So thanks to everyone for checking it out. Thanks to everyone who's watching it, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, everybody.